What's up, guys? We're back with more picks and predictions for this Saturday's UFC card held in Paris. It's headlined by Renato Moicano and Benoit Saint Denis. It's looking like a pretty good fight night card, so let's jump into the recap for UFC 306's bets and then hop into the picks for this weekend. Alright, so taking a look at our recap from UFC 306, you guys probably see a lot of red here. I'm not too mad about the O'Malley pick. I think in hindsight, I didn't think that Merab would be able to execute a game plan like that. And I watched some Tim Welch interviews after. They weren't prepared for him to shoot double legs like that, and that's also something I noticed in the fight. He was shooting double legs really effectively on Sean. So you know what? Credit to him. He's now the champ, so we'll see how that goes. I don't think he holds the belt for long. I think Oumar is going to take it right away. But yeah, lost that bet on Sean. It is what it is. Manuel Torres, I think, was the one that I was kind of mad about. I think looking back on it, I didn't give Bahamas enough credit, so that one as well. And then Grasso looked terrible. Esteban Ribovic really saved the night at plus 190. He got a lot of units back for us. Ronaldo Rodriguez is minus 3.5. To be honest, I thought that would hit due to a finish in the fight rather than the way it went on the scorecards. But, we ended up getting the nod there. And then Rosas by sub just died off the rip. So yeah, we were down about half a unit. We went about 3.5 units the card before at UFC Vegas 97. So it gave a little bit back. But, win or lose, this is the recap. I'm going to keep it clean with you guys. And then let's move on to this week's cards. All right, so first fight on the card to open up UFC Paris, we have Bolaji Oki versus Chris Duncan. Now, I'm going to pick Oki in this fight. This is an interesting matchup. I think neither of these guys are very trustworthy to bet on, but I think overall Oki is probably the better fighter here. Now, every round obviously starts on the feet, and I think on the feet, Oki should be winning a lot of this fight. Chris Duncan probably cannot compete with Oki when it comes to striking, aside from maybe the low kicks. I think Duncan's low kicks might be a little bit better. But as long as Oki's aware of that, and he is overall a pretty good striker, he's definitely a lot quicker than Duncan, so he's going to have the speed advantage. I think he should be able to light him up on the feet. Aside from that, if this fight does go to the ground, Duncan does have an advantage there, but I don't see him having the wrestling or the takedowns to be able to take Oki down. I think Oki can stuff a lot of them. He's definitely getting better at the wrestling as well, better at the takedown defense. So it really just comes to that. I think a lot of Duncan's path is going to be through the wrestling. I don't know if he'll be able to impose on Oki. I personally don't think he will. So I'm going to go with Bolaji to win this fight. There could be a knockout, but Duncan's decently durable. So I'm going to say Bolaji Oki wins this one by decision. All right, next fight on the card, we have Nora Cornolle versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Now, this is a pretty interesting fight. I actually think it's going to be a fun fight to watch. Both these girls have a very similar fighting style. They're both kickboxers. They're both going to want to stay on the feet, so don't expect this fight to go to the ground or anything. These guys are just going to strike for 3 rounds, and, the better striker will win. Now, when it comes to who the better striker is, the odds kind of reflect the risk here. Cavalcanti, has a 3-inch reach advantage, and she's going to be fine just staying on the back foot, counter-punching, and basically just, trying to dot up Nora Cornolle for 3 rounds and get the win that way. And Cornolle's job really is going to be to bring the fight to Jacqueline in this matchup. She has a 3-inch reach disadvantage. She's going to want to break that. She can't fight in Jacqueline's range, so she's going to have to kind of come inside, blitz in. But I do think that she does have more power than Cavalcanti. So I think that when it comes to who's going to have the bigger moments, I think Cornolle will have the bigger moments. Now, the odds on this fight are interesting. Cornolle's plus 170 and Cavalcanti is minus 210. So there is some money to be made here, in my opinion. I'm going to pick Cornolle. I'm going to pick the underdog at plus 170. I think that she does end up having the bigger moments. She also does have the hometown advantage here. She is from France. This is UFC Paris, so, if there's any sauce from the judges that come in, who knows? I'll take that, but I expect this to be one of those close decisions, one of those close fights. And another interesting play here is when the line drops on DraftKings, maybe you want to take a spread plus 3.5 on Cornolle, thinking that, she could lock down 1 round. But yeah, I think the money line could also be a good play. I'm straight up going to take Cornolle to win this fight by a decision. I think she has more power, and I think that Cavalcanti will try to just dot her up, stay on the back foot, and kind of point fight her to 3 rounds. But I don't think she'll be able to take over in the striking numbers by a wide margin. So I think it's going to come down to who landed the more damaging strikes. And when it comes to that, the more impactful strikes, I'm going to give that to Cornolle. So I'll take Cornolle to win this by decision. All right, now, this is actually a pretty fun fight. We have Daniel Barez versus Victor Altamirano. Barez is coming off a loss in 2023 to Rafael Filo. But if you watch that fight, in the first round, he almost finished Rafael Filo until Filo ended up getting a submission. And then Altamirano is coming off 2 losses back to back. His last loss was to Felipe Dos Santos, and then before that he lost to Tim Elliott. Now he lost a split decision to Felipe Dos Santos, and to be honest, a lot of people say that's a robbery. I personally don't think so. I think he did have a lot of takedowns and some control in that fight, but I think a lot of the damage was done by Felipe Dos Santos. So, I wouldn't really consider that a robbery. I know a lot of people do, so that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, now these guys are matching up, and to be honest, the first 30 seconds to 2 minutes of this fight, Barez will show you that he's clearly much better than Altamirano. But the one problem with Barez is he has shown to have some type of like gas tank issues. He slows down, and he slows down quite fast. I wouldn't say he death gasses, but he does slow down heavily, and he slows down a little bit early, like end of round 1. So that's something pretty like concerning. Now, he hasn't fought since 2023. I'm hoping the gas tank is something he's worked on. But to talk about how he is prior to him slowing down, he's like a little mini like Ilia Topuria. He has really like powerful like wrestling, as in his takedowns timing is really good. His takedown defense is really good. And then he's one of those like crunched up boxing stances, like just ripping like powerful hooks to the body, throwing powerful hooks upstairs, staying pretty defensively sound. But then I think like as he slows down, his striking defense definitely takes a big hit. He's able to get hit a lot on the feet, and Altamirano would probably be able to catch him with a bunch of those like wild strikes that he throws. But I mean, aside from that, it literally just comes down to how long can Barez's gas tank last? Because all those minutes, when he has a gas tank, he's going to win. And then he could also get a finish in that time. And then once his gas tank really starts slowing down, I think that the way for Barez to continue to win minutes at that point would be to just like heavily focus on like the wrestling. Now, his wrestling is much better than Altamirano's. Altamirano's kind of game everywhere, but Barez's wrestling will be much better. Both these guys can also throw up submissions, and both these guys have been submitted a bunch of times. So, that's also something to watch. Like, a random sub could easily pop off here. This is a very close fight. I think the odds reflect it quite well. I think it's essentially pick him. I think Barez is plus 100 or something like that. So essentially pick him. I'm going to pick Barez, to be honest, because Barez is the better fighter. And as a fighter, I assume that he's working on his gas tank. I think like you have to at some point. If that's like what's stopping you, where in that first like 2 minutes you're destroying somebody, and then like you gas out and the fight kind of changes tides. So if that's what's happening, I'm assuming you have to be working on your gas tank. And that's what I'm going to pick, as long as his gas tank can last him throughout that second round. Now, Altamirano is he's pretty game. He's hard to finish. He's not going to like go down easy, but Barez can definitely knock him out. He has the power to knock him out. He has the subs to get a finish. And then in general, his wrestling and his striking, when his energy is up, is going to be better than Altamirano. I think the striking might be a little iffy. You never know, because Altamirano has like a really wild striking style. But in general, Barez will be the better fighter. It just depends on how long he has energy. I'm going to pick Barez. This is a really interesting matchup. It's going to be fun to watch. But yeah, there's some cool things I think you should look at here. One, if you guys see Barez gassing, but he's winning, check those live odds and hit Altamirano. That would be a really interesting way to play this. Another thing you could do is, I think you could play Barez straight up too, potentially. But yeah, this is a cool fight. I'm going to pick Barez to get the win here. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. All right, up the card, we have Ailin Perez versus Darya Zheleznyakova. Now, this should be a pretty easy breakdown, in my opinion. Zheleznyakova is a kickboxer. She wants to keep it on the feet, and Perez is going to want to just chain wrestle the entire fight. She's going to go takedown after takedown. If Zheleznyakova gets back up, she's going to spam another takedown. And she should be able to take Zheleznyakova down. I think Montserrat Rendon was Zheleznykova's last fight, who she beat, but I think she was taken down 2 or 3 times in that fight, if I remember correctly. And, I think Ailin Perez is just a much better wrestler. I also think that if Zheleznyakova can get back up, Perez will shoot another takedown. I think she will work to position, work to do a lot more ground and pound than Rendon did. So I think that once Perez does get the takedowns, she will do enough with them to make them impactful on the judges' scorecards. This fight probably goes to a decision. I think the over-underline will probably be really juiced when it does come out. So, yeah, I would say Ailin Perez by decision. Not going to spend too much time on this. All right, next fight on the card, we have a late addition, which is Taylor Lapilus versus Vince Morales. Once again, I'm going to pick the French fighter here, Lapilus. I want to say this is like a layup, but every time I call a fight a layup, some shit goes wrong. So I'm not going to call it a layup, but I think Lapilus should definitely get the win here. I think that reflects in his odds too. He is a minus 355 favorite. Now, Morales used to be in the UFC, I think a little while ago, if I'm not mistaken. Then he went back onto the regional scene, and then, he's been getting some wins there, and now he stepped up on short notice against Taylor Lapilus. And realistically, in this fight, Lapilus is just a really good striker. I think he had a little bit of volume issues, but I think in his fight against Cody Stamen, his last win, which was about 3 months ago, he definitely showed that he can throw some volume. So he could be low volume at times, like a lot of these French fighters are, but in general, he is really good on the feet. Morales, realistically, in this fight, probably has to find a submission or something somewhere. Morales is pretty good on the ground, but I don't see him being able to take this fight on the ground. Morales also does have some level of power early on in fights, so he can just come out and try to throw the kitchen sink at Taylor, and who knows, if he catches him, he catches him. But outside of that, outside of anything wild coming from the Morales side, like a random knockout or random sub, when it comes to just who's going to be the better fighter over 15, it's definitely going to be Lapilus, and I don't think Lapilus is the type of person to engage in a firefight with Morales, just like out of just like ego or something like that. So as long as he stays focused and keeps his head cool, I think Lapilus should be able to win this fight, no problem. All right, now up the card, we have Ludovic Klein versus Roosevelt Roberts. This one's going to be super short. Ludovic Klein is minus 800. He's literally better than Roberts everywhere. There's no reason for him to lose this fight. Klein definitely wins this fight in any way he wants to. So, yeah, I'm going to take Ludovic Klein to beat Roosevelt Roberts. This fight is going to be pretty one-sided. All right, we move on to another big favorite on this card. We have Oumar Sy versus Dawoon Jung. Now, Oumar Sy, I think, is sitting at minus 500 right now, and I think he should definitely be the one to win this fight. The way this fight goes is pretty simple. Jung is probably only live for a random KO. He does carry a bunch of power, so, anything can happen. It is a fist fight. But, at the end of the day, Oumar Sy is decent with the hands, and he's going to be able to get his wrestling going. That's really what he's going to be looking for this fight. I think it's possible to maybe chase Sy by submission bet here. I definitely think he can submit Jung, but you never know. He does have pretty good ground and pound as well. His wrestling is great. His top pressure is great. So he's going to be able to kind of do whatever he wants once he gets this fight to the ground. And I think that's realistically how this is going to play out. So look for Sy to get his wrestling going. Jung could be live for a KO, like I said, but in reality, Sy should win this fight. He is 10-0. He's looking like a great prospect. And, yeah, once again, don't want to call it a layup, but Jung is live, but, not really. Look for Sy to get the dub, and he should look to get his wrestling going to do that. All right, next fight on the card is Ion Cutelaba versus Ivan Erslan. Now, I think this is Erslan's UFC debut, and this is a very interesting fight. It's essentially a pick'em. Cutelaba's minus 115, so he's a very, very slight favorite. And I am going to be picking him, but I'm not confident at all in this pick, like whatsoever. And the reason is because both these guys carry a ton of power. There's probably going to be a firefight at some point in this if they do go for it. And when it comes to that, like Cutelaba's chin is just like absolutely shot. He can get knocked out very easily, and Erslan does have the power to knock him out. So you think that there's no reason to be picking Cutelaba. That could be true. If that firefight does happen, yeah, Cutelaba's going out cold, so he will lose. But Erslan looks really bad in wrestling and grappling exchanges, and that's why I'm going to pick Cutelaba. I think that if Cutelaba wants to win this fight, he can. All he has to do is get his wrestling going and not eat any bullshit from Ivan coming his way with tons of power, and that path to victory is there for him. So it's up to him. He could make this fight extremely boring and get the win, and I think he does that, which is why I'm going to pick Cutelaba. But, at the end of the day, I'm not confident in this pick at all. They could come out swinging, and Cutelaba has the power to knock Erslan out too, so that's also, I think, a problem, because if he didn't, he would straight wrestle. But because he does, they could come out swinging, and if they come out swinging, I would bet Erslan all day just because Ion's chin is just shot. So, yeah. Take that as you will. Ion is the pick, but, with this fight, I'm not confident at all. All right, this next fight on the card is going to be pretty interesting. We have Perez Ziam, who's a boring striker, versus Matt Frevola, who's always in chaotic, always in fun fights. And I'm going to pick Matt Frevola here. This is a very close fight. I think Frevola is a plus 110 underdog. So I'm going to go with Frevola, but, this fight could be very close. I see it going two potential ways. On the Ziam side, the way he's going to want to win this is very simple. He's low volume. He's one of those classic French fighters, very technical striker. He's going to want to keep it, the pace of the fight very slow and tap and move. He doesn't really sit on many shots, so he doesn't throw much power, but he is really good at doing what he does, which is that tap and move kind of style. And when it comes to Frevola is going to want to be the one creating chaos. He's going to want to speed up the pace of this fight. He's not going to want to give Ziam the space to think and kind of move the way he normally does. And I think he's going to be able to do that. Now, the reason why is not only because of the way he can kind of make the striking chaotic, but also I think the wrestling is there for him if he wants. And I think the threat of that is going to be pretty opening for him. He can kind of like mix in takedowns wherever he wants. And I think he will do that. I think he'll kind of mix in a bunch of takedowns, some wild striking, a bunch of chaotic stuff. And I don't think it's going to give Ziam the space to do what he wants. So this can be a very close fight. It depends on who controls the pace. If Ziam controls the pace of this fight, then he will get the win. If Frevola controls the pace, then he'll get the win. And, you know, maybe a cool way to play this would be if there's a finish, Frevola, if decision, no action. Don't know what that line would look like just yet, but that could be a cool way to play this. But, you know, straight up, I'm going to pick Frevola to get the job done here. I think he can mix in the wrestling. I think he can control the pace. And I think, in general, he can do much more to win this fight. All right, next fight on the card, we have Morgan Charriere versus Gabriel Miranda. Now, this is an interesting fight. I think the odds got a little bit crazy here. Morgan is at minus 700. Now, the paths to victory are very simple. If this fight goes to decision, I think Morgan wins that. If this fight ends in a knockout, Morgan wins that. The only way Miranda wins this fight is through a submission, and that's because Miranda is basically one of those submission specialist type of fighters. I think he has some pretty aggressive striking, and he has some decent takedowns. I wouldn't call them great, but I wouldn't call them horrible either. I think they are decent takedowns. He averages about 4 a fight, and you know what I mean? Like, he's going to focus on that submission, so he's not going to take Morgan down and kind of just focus on control, focus on top pressure. Also, Morgan is a high enough level grappler and wrestler to not have that done to him, so I don't think that Gabriel's going to hold him down or anything like that, but I do think that Gabriel can be very dangerous the second this fight touches a mat or the second they're in any type of clinch type of position. Gabriel's going to look straight for the sub. That is his only path to victory, and he knows that. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. Miranda is plus 500. I'm probably going to wait for his Miranda by submission line to drop just to juice it up a little bit more. Now, obviously, take this with a grain of salt. Morgan is minus 700 for a reason. But, you know, minus 700 lose all the time. And I'm going to take Miranda to somehow pull off the sub here. I'm going to fade the French guy. I think this might be my first French fade in the entire card. One of them is bound to lose. I'm going to fade Morgan. I think it's a trap. I'm going to go out on a limb and take Miranda. Take that as you will. Morgan is minus 700. But, yeah, I'm going to say Miranda might just find the submission somewhere in a random scramble, random thing. So, yeah, I'm going to take Miranda to win this fight. All right, now this next matchup is pretty interesting. We have Kevin Jousset versus Bryan Battle. Now, when I initially saw this matchup, I was like all in to put money on Bryan Battle. But the more I think about it, the more I look into it. Now, I'm going to pick Bryan Battle to win this fight, but I think this fight could end up being a little bit closer than people think. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, the odds reflect that. I actually thought the odds would be a lot more in Battle's favor, so maybe I was just wrong. Maybe I'm a little bit lower on Jousset than I should be. But yeah, the more I look into this fight, I think it can be a lot closer. Now, Battle obviously is going to have the better jiu-jitsu in this fight, but when it comes to overall grappling and being able to put Jousset in positions that he can kind of like control, I think that's going to be tough because Jousset is pretty good at judo. Jousset does have a pretty good judo background, and when it comes to that, you know, the takedowns and stuff, in those scenarios, while they're on the feet clinching and looking for a takedown, if there's any trips or something, you know, Kevin can have those judo tosses and stuff at his disposal. So I don't know how much Bryan Battle's jiu-jitsu will come into play here. Once again, it is really high level, and that is what he's best at. And then when it comes to just standing up in kickboxing, I would say Battle might be a little bit more lethal, but Jousset is more technical. He can land more. He has the better jab. And at the same time, Battle does have a reach advantage, but it is not that much. I think it's like a 2-inch reach advantage on Jousset. So who knows? I think this fight's going to be pretty close on the feet. I think Jousset is more technical. Battle's more wild. Battle might have a little bit more power on the feet, but at the same time, Jousset is a really high-level kickboxer. When it comes to the grappling, Jousset does have the judo background. Battle is really good at jiu-jitsu. So this could be a really close fight. I'm going to take Battle to win. I think Battle is just going to be more dangerous than Jousset overall. And I think that's the reason why I'm going to take Battle to win. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to which one of these two is more likely to finish the fight, I would say it's Battle. But I think this fight does go all the way. It's hard for me to even pick a minute winner. I'm going to go with Battle as the more dangerous one. But I think this fight's pretty close. And at first, I was going to put money on it right away. But now I'm really thinking twice on that. So Battle is going to be the pick. But, I think this could be very close. All right, now the next fight on the card, I'm looking forward to this quite a bit. It's William Gomes versus Joanderson Brito. And the reason I'm looking forward to this fight a lot is because fighters like Gomes just really piss me off. When I say a fighter is low volume, I don't think you can get any lower volume than William Gomes. And I think I'm just fading the French again here. I think that's 3 in a row now that I've faded. I faded Charriere, which is kind of like a going out on a limb type of fade. Then we faded Jousset, but I think that one could be close. And now I'm fading Gomes. I'm definitely fading Gomes here. I think Brito smokes him, and the reason why is just because Gomes literally, I think he went he throws 2 strikes a minute or some bullshit like that. He does not throw at all. He's super low volume, and he is just one of those counter strikers. He's not going to want to take this fight to the ground. And Brito, on the other hand, is one of the most dangerous fighters in this weight class. I think he can finish a fight anywhere. He's super high level everywhere. He's very well rounded. And he's super chaotic. He's going to come in guns blazing, and I don't think Gomes is going to be able to handle that type of pressure. Brito's going to come in on the most smoke whatsoever. And I'm really glad this fight's happening. It's actually funny because a while back, I think Gomes was scheduled to fight Jean Silva, and that fight got kind of canceled because I think Gomes almost died on the scale when he was trying to make weight. So it's interesting. Now he's fighting again. He's fighting Brito. I need him to fight one of these really chaotic fighters, and I want him to get smoked. So in this fight, I think he does get smoked. I think Brito comes in. He's going to be super dangerous. Brito won his Contender Series fighting against Diego Lopez, for context, and I think he's just a really high-level fighter, super chaotic and really aggressive, always looking for a finish. I think he comes in here. He doesn't let Gomes slow the pace down. Similar to the Frevola, Ziam type of fight. The French guys are going to want to slow down the pace. These opponents are going to want to come in and pick up the pace, and I think Frevola is going to be able to do it to Ziam. And I definitely think Brito's going to be able to do it to Gomes. So I'm going to take Joanderson Brito to win here, and really looking forward to this fight. All right, now, next fight on the card, we have the co-main event, which is Nasruddin Imavov versus Brendan Allen. I'm going to go with Imavov this fight. Now, I think a lot of people think this fight is going to be close. I mean, I respect Brendan Allen, but I just don't see what Brendan Allen is going to have to do to win this fight. I think on the feet, I think Imavov has become a really clean striker. He's getting really good at it. I know in general his background was first wrestling, but at this point his striking has become really high level. We saw what he did to Cannonier. I actually bet Cannonier against Imavov, and I was really impressed with Imavov's performance in that fight. So I think Imavov on the feet can put in work on Brendan Allen here, and we saw Brendan Allen need to kind of go to the wrestling to beat Chris Curtis. And when it comes to the wrestling, I mean, Imavov is a better wrestler than Brendan Allen as well. The only place I think Allen is live, I think this is another submission or bust type of fight. And Brendan Allen can submit Imavov, I guess, but in general, in order for him to submit him, I don't think he can get him to the ground. And I don't think Imavov gives his back up on the feet or anything like that. So, I mean, Brendan Allen is live for submission, but I think that's about it. And I think that Imavov is going to be pretty calculated. If I'm not mistaken, this is a 3-round fight. Let me just double check that. Yeah, this is a 3-round fight. So I think Imavov can definitely hold his own here. I think he can, create some distance on the feet, a wide margin in strikes on the feet, and then if Brendan Allen tries to, mix it up, go to the grappling, I think Imavov can hold off those type of attacks as well. So I see Imavov doing well in this fight. Not sure if I'm going to bet him just yet, but, Imavov is going to be my pick here, likely by decision. All right, and finally, we have our main event for UFC Paris. We have Benoit Saint Denis versus Renato Moicano. Now, I'm going to go out and just pick Saint Denis as my pick for this fight, but if there's one pick that I really want to get wrong this week, it's this one. I really hope Moicano wins. I probably will maybe even put some money down on Moicano personally just for fun, but Saint Denis is going to be the pick. Saint Denis is the better fighter, and when it really just comes down to one thing in this, Moicano's issue in this fight is going to be his chin, and Saint Denis' issue in this fight is going to be his gas tank. So we'll kind of have to figure out how this fight plays out. I think Saint Denis is going to come out and just bomb away and, full out 100% pressure like he normally does. And I think he gets the finish on Moicano. But I think at the end of the day, Moicano is obviously still very dangerous, still very live. He is chinny, though, which is why it's just so hard to pick him. But if he does survive that onslaught and he can kind of slow this fight down a little bit and, get in those like clinch scenarios, get this fight on the ground. Obviously, Moicano's super dangerous on the ground and can pull out a submission from anywhere. So, and from the last fight as well, we don't know how hard Saint Denis could potentially gas. I know there was like the question of, he might have had staph infection last time, which is why he gassed, but we don't know exactly how hard BSD is going to gas if he does. But assuming he gasses to some degree, he does slow down. I think if Moicano does survive that onslaught, there's a path to victory for him. So I'm going to be rooting for Moicano quite heavily here, but my pick is going to be BSD. I think that early onslaught's going to be too hard to survive. He is a world beater. And, like what he did to Dustin Poirier in round 1 is no joke. So being able to do that to a fighter like Dustin Poirier is pretty crazy. I know he did gas, but, assuming that he's kind of worked on that a little bit, or, in general, the staph infection played a big role in how heavily he gassed. I think BSD can obviously win this fight, and he's going to be my pick. But at the end of the day, we'll be rooting for Moicano. Hopefully we get a post-fight interview for him. That's going to be just as fun as UFC 300. So, yeah. So that concludes all the picks and predictions for this UFC Paris card. I'm glad to be back after the week off we had from UFC 306. And, didn't do the best that card, lost about half a unit. We're up 3.5 units from the card before, though, so still doing very well. Stay locked in. If you guys want to join Premium, it's on kopicks.win. It's $20 a month, and even if you don't, check out our bio and join our Discord. We're building a really, really fun community. Love to have everyone in there and have discussion about every fight. You can ask us questions. We'd love to hear your opinions and stuff like that. So join up on the Discord. If you want to check out Premium, be my guest, kopicks.win to check out Premium. And yeah, looking forward to how this card plays out.